This is TWiT.
Oh, I shouldn't sing. Sorry. You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? It's me, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We're going to take a little break from calls momentarily, as we always do at this time, for Sam Abuelsamid, our car guy. He's an expert in the technology of vehicles, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, podcaster at wheelbearings.media. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo. How are you today?
I am well. What's up in the world of cars?
Well, I took the Miata out for the first drive of the year yesterday. It's temperatures up into the
did you
55 yesterday and 60 today.
Did you throw out the roof so you can't take it out unless it's warm?
I didn't throw it out, but I never put it up. Unless the only time I ever put up the top on my car is when I'm washing it. That's it.
Is it a rag top?
Yeah. So
really, it's not a roof. It's a roof in name only.
Well, no, it's a roof. I mean, it'll keep out the rain. So if it starts raining while I'm driving, it'll keep me dry.
Yeah.
It keeps the water out when I'm washing the car, but the rest of the time it stays down because it's a convertible. It's supposed to be driven with the top down. If you're not going to drive, if you have a convertible and you don't put the top down, then why did you buy a convertible?
That's a good question.
Because almost all convertibles look worse with the top up than they do with the top down. Yeah. So just leave the top down. If you don't want your hair messed up, don't buy a convertible.
Sam, it seems you have strong feelings on this matter.
I have an opinion or two on this topic. I see people driving around in convertibles with the top up on beautiful days like today, and I wonder why did you bother? But speaking of convertibles,
yes,
this week Polestar, which is it started off as a company in the mid-'90s developing race cars based on Volvos for touring car racing.
That explains the name Polestar, a star of the pole position.
Well, actually, it's more about the pole
the
star,
North Star.
The North Star. Yeah,
hey, I was trying to be
up
clever.
in Sweden.
Yeah.
But at any rate, they started off, and then they got into building high-performance road cars for Volvo. Volvo eventually bought Polestar. Then Volvo got bought by Geely, the Chinese manufacturer, and then they decided, we're gonna make Polestar a dedicated EV brand, and so they set it up, sort of spinning it out again, and they launched their first cars a couple of years ago, the Polestar 1, which is actually a plug-in hybrid coupe, high performance, and then the Polestar 2, which is available now that you can buy as a sedan, and they've got more models coming out. But they showed a new concept this week called the Polestar O2, as in oxygen, and it's a convertible. It's a Roadster, and it's quite a stunning looking Roadster, I think. And they haven't said yet if they're going to build this, but it's based on the same a new platform that they've been developing. It's a bonded aluminum platform that they're going to use for their upcoming Polestar 5 high performance.
It's interesting. We for years cars were made of steel. But people are trying different materials, I guess, because for weight reasons. Yeah,
aluminum is considerably lighter than steel.
Yeah,
and depending on how you put it together, it can be just as strong. I mean, as an example, Ford has been building F-150s out of aluminum since 2015, and they're plenty strong. It's not an issue. And what's interesting, one of the interesting things about this vehicle and this new platform that Polestar is developing, Polestar is based in Sweden, but they established a new R&D facility in the UK, and they hired a bunch of people from companies like Lotus. Lotus, the sports car maker, back in the 90s, they developed, when they were developing the Elise, which eventually became the basis of the original first-generation Tesla Roadster, they wanted to make the Elise really lightweight and make it out of aluminum, and they had to figure out ways to build this thing.
What about safety? I mean, steel, is strong. I don't want to drive around in a tin can.
Aluminum can be plenty strong as well.
Oh, good. Okay.
It can be just as strong. It can be just as strong as steel.
Hence the bonded aluminum, like plywood. Yeah.
Right. So what they generally with steel vehicles, they're most of the parts are welded together or bolted together.
Right.
But in order to get one of the things they wanted to do with the Elise and that they're doing with the new Polestar platforms, they wanted to use extrusions. So an extrusion is when you take metal and you heat it up till it's almost like a paste. It's not quite liquid, but pliable. And then you force it through a die. So it's kind of like when you squeeze your tube of toothpaste, you're extruding the toothpaste out of the end of the tube.
Didn't Elon do that with some Teslas? Sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he got the technology from Lotus.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
I mean, a bunch of Lotus engineers have worked at Tesla. And so Tesla originally developed this using extrusions, and they were trying to figure out, okay, how can we join these parts together? And they actually they worked with some companies that build adhesives, and they developed some structural adhesives to glue these parts together.
Okay. Now, I'm sure it's very strong, but it does make people nervous
really strong.
When you say you're driving an aluminum car that's been glued together. I mean, there's kind of that sounds like not so good. It sounds like it's maybe made out of chewing gum wrappers.
Yeah, no. These adhesives that they've developed for joining these aluminum components. So they've got a mix of castings, extrusions, some stampings, and to join it all together, they developed these industrial adhesives that are incredibly strong. It's stronger than welds.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so this is the kind of technology that they're using. A number of other manufacturers have adopted it. You mentioned Lotus or Tesla. Tesla has used it in the Model S and the Model X. And of course,
so I was
Roadster.
driving a chewing gum wrapper vehicle. I just didn't know.
You were, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And the
you know what's
original Roadster,
interesting?
of course, was based on that same architecture.
That is one thing I noticed. It feels like the hoods and the fenders and stuff on my Model X seemed thin. It felt like I could dent them by punching them, and I guess that's because they were thin.
Yeah, if you tap on them, they'll feel like they're thinner, but they're typically actually thicker than steel panels.
Oh. Because
aluminum itself, at the same thickness, aluminum is not as strong as steel, but you can get the same strength by using a thicker gauge of aluminum, and it'll still be lighter. So it can still be about 30% lighter than a comparable steel part. And so,
and of course, weight's huge with electric vehicles.
It's really important with electric vehicles
weight and
because batteries are heavy.
Yeah,
and the more mass you have to move, the more energy it takes to move that. So it's going to affect your range and your performance. And as a prime example, we talked recently about the Hummer EV, and the battery pack in the Hummer EV weighs 2,932 pounds.
It's more than a Honda,
which is about the same as the Honda Civic that's parked in my garage, and about half again as much as my Miata. So using aluminum is great. I mean, aluminum is a little more expensive to use than steel, but you make up for it in other ways by reducing the mass. You can make the vehicle more efficient. Aluminum is also very easily recyclable. Steel is easily recyclable as well, but it's really easy to take the scrap, when you're machining it and cutting off parts, taking all the scrap parts, melt them back down again, make more parts out of it. So you have very little waste with aluminum. And so this Polestar O2 concept, like the upcoming Polestar 5, uses this bonded aluminum chassis that should be really, really strong, very lightweight, and should help the performance compared to building the same thing out of steel or some other material.
Is this the one behind you? Is the one with the drone in the back?
This is the one with the drone in the back. So the production version, if they build it, probably won't have a drone in the back. But this one has a drone that you can pop out, and it'll follow along. It's paired to the car.
It's the first car with a selfie cam, and I think it's very appropriate for this modern world.
Absolutely.
See me driving
around. What could possibly go wrong?
Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher, Bearings.media is his podcast, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, and always a pleasure to have you on. And I'm glad you were able to drive your rag top around town because it's warming up. Spring has sprung. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Leo.